breeze. Big brave pants riding with ease.
So here we are again with another episode of Tales from the Hayloft. Big Brave Pants here at Larkley's, our headquarters in the Hayloft. So, God, I say that differently every week. It sort of comes down a different pattern, but hey ho. So this week I'm super excited because I've got a very dear friend of mine who I've known for quite a number of years. And managed to pin her down because she is like super busy and all over the place at the moment. But we're hoping that we're going to get 2 recordings. So this will be part 1, and then hopefully you'll be able to see part 2 as well. So Michelle Lyall.
Well, it's Gosling now, of course.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
So I was going to say that. Do you go by? Is it changing to Gosling?
So since I've been working in my current job at Equine America, like you know, I have been Gosling. It's sort of like not reinventing myself, but my business, of course, before was MSL Equine, which were my initials. And so it just made sense to keep Lyall for all those years.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I don't think I even knew your married name.
Did you not?
No, I didn't even know it was Gosling.
Yes, after the goose. Yeah.
Lovely Pete.
Yes, so with the lovely Pete, so it's quite nice for him to know that I'm using his name now, that he does exist in name, if nothing else, because there's not a lot of time for poor Pete sometimes.
So, Michelle, we always start with taking you right back to where did your love for horses begin and your journey in equestrianism?
Right, now this is where you might need 3 sessions. So my mother was really horsey, which is a bit of a bittersweet start. My grandparents were really wealthy. My grandpa was a dentist, and of course he sent them off to public boarding school where they were going to come back with amazing future. My mum was a twin, and my lovely aunt, who I lost the other year, she went off and followed his footsteps, became a dentist, you know, went to medical school, all of that. And all my mum wanted to do was horses.
Yeah.
So, yes, anyway, they were absolutely horrified and disgusted. And, you know, they used to do all the, like, going riding if they went on their holidays and stuff, but that was it. And so they sent her to Talland in Cirencester because they wanted it had to be the best place for her. So my mum was very privileged to be trained under Molly Sivright. Yeah. So Pammy Hutton's mum, who I also had the pleasure of meeting some years later. And you know, which was wonderful because at that point it was probably the only thing that my mother ever wanted to show off of me. Was like, look at my daughter. So yeah, so I was kind of in a way forced into horses because it was her passion. She never owned a horse, although it was always offered. She had a bit of a chip on her shoulder. And I mean, she went off to do lots of things with horses before she then just gave up. I think the hard work.
Okay, she did give up.
Things not being as rosy, like working on a polo yard and seeing them come in with their bloody noses and their banged legs. And my mum was sort of very much on the, you'd say, on the spectrum nowadays, quite bipolar. So she used to, if she had an opinion, it'd be like boom at you and offend people, and then she'd have to move on. But anyway, she had these strict rules. When I had a pony, it was all rescue ponies. I had the ones with 3 legs and still loved it, you know. So I started off, my first pony was a pony called Becky. And she was, what a wonderful name. And she was this little 11-1. And she was at a riding school called Saddle and Spur in Collick, near Collick Racecourse. And it got closed down 3 times due to cruelty. And because my mum was very driven by stuff like that, it was like, right, we're going to, even though we couldn't afford it, book every lesson so that pony doesn't get ridden by that big girl. So it'd be like me and back again. And the pony was really dangerous. And so they used to put the teenagers on it. And I actually started like sort of lead rein because my mum insisted. From, 3 hours riding a donkey. That's another story. But at 5, I was busy, able to ride that pony. And it used to bolt. And that's why they didn't let kids on it, really. And
How
Down
is your
next-
daughter? Last seen Gabrielle Gosling.
So my mum used to be whatever, anything, any horse that had anything wrong, Michelle will get on it. I think she was trying to get rid of me at a young age. But I loved it because I used to, you think you're a good rider, but I think I had no contact and never gave them a reason to fight me. And I loved them with the whole entirety of me. And one day, down next to the River Trent in Nottingham, there was like one of those, do you call them like a viaduct kind of bridge with the train going across the top? And one of the arches went literally across the River Trent. And then the next arch was sort of boarding that was still maybe a bit where the river opened up. Yeah. And I remember her bolting off. And I remember seeing the river in gaps of the wooden boards as I careered, missing them, leaving everyone else behind.
Gosh,
and yet I absolutely still loved her. It was just be like, go on, naughty. So we then bought her because they were getting closed down again. And we had to take her to a different place than we planned because he'd fallen out with so many people. He was like, I don't want you taking her there.
Oh, okay.
And we just wanted to get her to safety. So the sad part really was I lost my dad at around the same age. I lost my dad at 7. And the pony did keep us together as a family because it was like you had to go. And I think in many ways that sort of stayed within my life as being something that's always made me feel very secure. That horse has made me feel more secure than sorry Pete, my husband, my son, or anybody else. It's been actually where I feel my safest has always been with a horse in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was
I
Becky.
know what you mean as well though, because it's other people. My husband hasn't let me down. Hopefully he won't let me down, but a horse can't let you down in the same way. So, and you're sort of in it.
And I think you
under
get
your
the
own
chance to ask
steam.
why, don't you?
Yeah.
If you feel that they're letting you down, it's like, why can't they do that? And why is that happening? And we have all those questions with, say, for instance, a man, but they're not necessarily, or a partner or a friend, but they're not so likely to tell you if they don't want to tell you.
No.
So you can be left with those questions, can't you? So yeah, a bit deep really. I'm sorry, ladies.
Oh, that's early in the conversation as well.
That's only pony number 1.
You're only 5 at this point, maybe 7.
I told you several seconds. So I mean, my story actually, a lot of it is sad, but like, I think really the way I look at it is all of my strength, like today, is absolutely from horses. My drive and like new career now, but like every single thing has been like that hunger to learn a bit more. And what other hobby gives you so much to learn? Yeah.
Well, every
day.
new horse is a new challenge, isn't it? And a new set of circumstances to learn about. We certainly are challenged all the time by ours.
I went to see a vet today actually, and I was talking to his wife, who's the practice manager. And she was saying that her husband's he's done stuff like point to points and team chasing. She's done show jumping, eventing. And the horse just suddenly had an absolute fit with him one day. And he was like, do you know what, I need to sedate him and scope him, think it's ulcers. And yes, there were lots of ulcers. But then they found out, like he said, I may as well, x-ray him whilst he's sedated. And literally they started off in one place and it was like the worst kissing spines they've ever seen.
Oh, gosh.
And they went, right, okay, well, we know about that. That's the worst. Got to the next bit. It was even worse. Got to the next bit. It was horrendous. And it was the whole length of this horse's back, virtually.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And so being in the profession that he was, he in his head knew, I want this particular surgeon to work on the horse. And she said, being a man and, thinking that, okay, he loved his horse, but like I was absolutely, done. I'm going to have it put down. She said, not once did he. He was like, no, this, I've got to get to the bottom of this. And this just started canter work really nicely.
Oh, wow. And
I just thought, again, that is a vet with 30 odd years worth of experience. And that horse is giving him the learning that he never experienced anything like that. So
no, it's gosh, that's
massive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it really is.
You see, that's why I was almost late coming here. You know, because there's so many real life stories there. You know, we're opening up so much to learning about the communication, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. Anyway, so Runaway Becky was pony number one.
Yeah. Did you keep her?
Yes, so kept her for a long time. She was always really difficult to catch. And
So you couldn't give her away anyway because you couldn't catch her.
No. And actually, I thought of another story about her. I used to be allowed at that age. You didn't get monitored, did you? I used to ride out for hours on my own. But I went out with a lady one day, and a lorry with a big flapping cover came along, and so she obviously had her fit, and I ended up falling off. I got into a car with a stranger,
Oh God.
a black Capri, and she literally, I mean, you probably don't know Nottingham, but there's a massive ring road that goes to the main QMC hospital. And okay, it's a lot busier now than it ever used to be. But she dumped me and I went off in this black Capri. She was a night rider or something. And, you know, there was my pony on the main dual carriageway. She'd gone over this well-known Nottingham night roundabout. And she was just stood at a gate that was double locked because of it going onto there, sniffing and talking to a horse over the gate. And, you know, so there's so many things that still never put you off. You know?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So that was...
So that was Dear Becky then, Runaway Becky. And
so then I'm trying to think, she did
they're
go
always
to a
trouble
retirement
with
home.
Becky, to be fair.
Trouble.
Absolutely.
You can't keep them pinned
You
down.
don't start calling me Runaway Becky.
Oh, my husband worry if nothing else.
Oh God, no, I can't. I'm gonna have to call you that now.
Oh dear.
So then the next pony I had, and I'm trying to think how it linked really, but was a pony called Peppy. And he was at a riding school, and my mum used to take me there because she'd met a new man after my dad had died.
So how old were you by now?
It didn't take her long. I was
I didn't mean that.
very surprising. She was very prudish, but I don't think she was really. Lots of stories, but it's not for a horsey chat. And she used to take me to sort of, I think, almost sort of get rid of me again. And my stepfather really resented that time I had with my mother, even though it was just that gap, that bit. And once again, my mum, with her standards of talent, would go to this riding school, and she's gone round and she's like, that horse's bridle isn't fitting, and that's got a sore there. And she'd feed me almost, I think, for many years with this anxiety of wanting to protect them. But it almost, there comes a period of time where you've got to be, you should never ever let there be a welfare issue, but actually you have to know who you can influence and how you can influence. And sometimes I think she caused more problems at the time.
Yeah.
So again, it was that she'd pay all this money that she didn't have because I had to ride that pony. No one else, she didn't want anyone else riding it. So Peppy was the next victim. And I would actually say, now I'm down in the New Forest, that I think that he had New Forest in him.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them have got slightly Roman noses, haven't they? A bigger sort of head.
Yeah.
And he was black and he was gorgeous.
Yeah.
But he napped like hell. So when we took him away from the riding school, he attempted to go into the newspaper shop. He didn't bolt, but he did not want to go back anywhere near that riding school, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And she'd made this like agreement that I could go and ride out at the back of the ride with them. So anyway, Peppy was gorgeous, and I outgrew him and we kept him, and he ended up doing riding for the disabled for some, you know, so he still was owned by us.
Yeah.
And I got the next horse, which was Ebony. And the thing that I haven't told you is my mum had these like really weird obsessions with stuff, as you can already tell. But I was only allowed black or dark bay horses.
Oh, I was thinking Ebony must also be black.
Yeah. And so if I said, oh, I love that one. Oh, you want that colour? You know, she'd be really sort of
offended.
I don't know if you've ever seen the film Misery with my mother was that person.
Oh dear.
So yeah, anyway, horse was a big respite. But anyway, so we went to try Ebony, and he was at Elveston Castle in Derbyshire.
Yeah.
And he was 5. He'd been broken into driving, but something had happened in the trap or whatever it was had gone over. So you couldn't have anything brush him at all behind the saddle. And he was way more expensive than any sort of rescue that we'd ended up having.
Yeah.
And so my grandma intervened, and it was like the most expensive horse. I think then I was 13 and he was like £650, which was loads of money.
Yeah.
And he was 14.3, had a perfect diamond star. And
he sounds like a Welsh D or something.
so he, funny enough, which would not be a sort that I'd go for at all, he was 3/4 Welsh, section D, quarter Arab, which was quite a weird kind of, and he was, like I say, black. He used to go slightly brown in the summer, and we kept him in a field that there had been some old like army remains there, so it was a field, but where I used to school and do stuff, there was still a little bit of the brickwork down the side. And one day a crow scarer thing went off, and whatever frightened him used to go straight to his back.
Oh, really?
And he went fly bucking, just mental, just crazy. And I landed on these bricks.
Oh, God.
And I do think, because I've always had a bit of a bad back, I do think that you didn't get things checked then, did you?
No.
You just got back on the horse.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. But he was lovely and really quirky, quite difficult in that way. But honestly, he used to follow me like a lamb. So if I ran to the bottom of the field, he'd be straight after me. And it was like my little Black Beauty story, really.
And so did you keep him?
Well, until I wanted to go to college, and Leicestershire wouldn't give funding to go to Nottinghamshire. And in Nottinghamshire, I had a riding test to pass that to get into the college. I also could actually do another subject that was more of a normal subject, and I used to do portraits of animals. So they'd see all my artwork, and they took me on for like a foundation art course with the horse side of it as well. And
So which college was that?
this was Brackenhurst, which was Newark way.
Right.
And so I lived with my grandma for quite a big period of time in Nottinghamshire, due to my not very nice stepdad and my not very nice mum.
Oh, is your mum still around?
No.
It's 'cause
I know you said
to
good, I have to be
she
really
is.
careful. No, I mean, I feel like I've had to wait for a lot of people to die before I could accept
talk
coming
about them.
here. So, which is really awful, isn't it? But no, I don't mean that completely. But there has been that element of, being able to talk freely.
I didn't know your mum had passed away.
Yeah, she
fairly
passed
recent,
away.
isn't
No, my aunt and her, funny enough, twins. My aunt died of cancer, and bless her, was more of a mum to me, so she was lovely. And my mum died within 6 months of her dying, just absolutely randomly.
Gosh,
Really weird.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So so I got into this college, and we couldn't get a grant, and there wasn't a similar college in Leicestershire. There was one that sort of did. You could go and do your stages, which is all you had open to you back then. But it didn't have a very good reputation, and I was all about reputation because, hang on, my mum had trained at somewhere really good, so why shouldn't I? And I was already instilled with lots of like really strict things, like I had to clean my tack every time I rode. So if it was twice in a day, I clean my tack twice a day. And
Do you still do
no,
that?
and
Because I feel bad otherwise.
she used to run her thumbnail up there. You haven't cleaned it properly, do it again.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that was how strict it was back then.
Peggy, if you're listening to this, and Millie, think how lucky you are.
It is something now. You know what I
Millie
mean?
could probably do that on mine and go.
Yeah.
In fact, today she said to me, "Your bit needs cleaning."
Oh, I used to get the bit about, it's like eating with a dirty knife and fork.
Yeah.
How would you like it? But she was always a bit obsessive in her delivery. You weren't really treated like a child. It was, you were an adult from the minute you were born, really.
Right, okay.
But yeah, so I have to thank her for horses coming in my life, because my life would not have been anywhere near as good without those horses. So anyway, she pulled up one day and I was riding to my grandma's on Ebony, lovely Ebony, and she said, right, you need to take him back. For someone that was always so funny about horses, you need to take him back now. I've got you a YTS job on a yard in Sapcote, Hinckley it was. And I was just absolutely, I didn't want to go.
Had you finished college?
I've
this is before you.
This is no, I never got to college because she wouldn't let me go. My grandma had got some money for there was 3 of us that was there until for when we were 18. And I was like, please, can I just have that to pay for my college, because it probably would have covered it back then. But when she was adamant, there was no negotiation, there was nothing. So I got taken to this yard, and the only option was for Ebony to come with me, but he was such a, like, you could tell with getting on and everything else, that just was never going to happen. So I had to find him a lovely person, which was a lovely person. But it was the first time I'd ever had to sell a horse. And I've sold very few since because I've always kept them. Anyway, so that was heartbreaking. And I went to this place and it looked beautiful. It was whitewashed, hanging baskets. But because I'd already done bits of like teaching linked to my mum, legally I was allowed, or they were allowed to make me teach for half an hour or 3/4 of an hour lessons non-stop. So I wasn't allowed to teach for an hour, but there could be a 15-minute gap. And I used to teach back to back. And as well as watering the indoor school, you know, all the things that you used to do. Riding across the field, bringing all the ponies in, you know, several off each hand, and sharing a room with 4 other girls. And I had the bunk bed without the ladder, so I had to stop. I had to start from this wall and like run and get enough bounce to try and like get into my bunk bed. So you just have lots of memories, don't you, about what you went through and things like that. And it all went pear-shaped because there was a show jumping yard that was the woman's daughter. And she had this beautiful striking done with the black points, but it would have been an Irish sports horse. And it was 4, and they pulled it back over against the boards in the school. And there was definitely something that was causing the horse to have its little meltdowns that now I'm further ahead. I probably would have had ideas as to, you know, what you would do. But back then I was just horrified by the violence. And then they had another horse where they'd overbooked the amount of adults going on a jumping lesson. And this horse had horrendous tendon injuries, was never meant to jump again. And they dosed him up and he went in the jumping lesson. And I just couldn't get past those things. And of course, when I told my mother, she was never out to protect you. She was straight on to the woman. And it was then like, you know, don't think you're ever going to get your qualifications, you know. And it was basically, we're going to make your life hell. So I ended up leaving.
Oh God.
Yeah. You don't want to know what I did next.
Yes, we do.
I'm not sure.
So my delightful mother, after all those years of horses, she then said, right, I've got you another YTS. And I was so heartbroken because I didn't want to, I know it's wrong, I didn't want to be a YTS person. I felt like I always had a chip on my shoulder about my education because I was kept off school to look after my dad and let the nurses in to change bed sore pads and all of those things. And, you know, I was the adult to my mum when she went, it wasn't on a dating site then, it was like Divorce and Separated Club. You know, and we had all these things where quick hide behind the settee because somebody was knocking on the door coming to take her out. So there was all those kind of things. And she literally ended up taking me to a beautician's. Talk about, like, I was actually lifting hay bales for friends on a farm at the time. And they took me along upstairs, downstairs in Loughborough it was called, and they had like Yves Saint Laurent and Charles of the Ritz and Clarins, and I was just like a fish out of water. Not only that, I had a white overall with pink trimming, and then she'd refuse to wash it. So I'd be going back and get told off about the fact that my so there was all these things going on. And at that point, a really big gap because I didn't have a horse.
Yeah.
And I think I realised that, I mean, I used to run away sometimes and all sorts, but that's where I went. And I told them everything and they wouldn't dare to, they didn't tell a soul. And that has been sort of, I think that's been sort of, it's almost like been having like a silent parent, but in a horse body that sort of kept you on the straight and narrow instead of going down the route of endless boyfriends and drugs and whatever else. It was always kind of
It's funny because I was talking about horses like that to Peggy earlier because I don't know, it's been a busy old day, nothing terrible's happened, but I felt a bit like stressed and just brought Prince in and kind of when you lean on their bums and I don't know, it's just like they almost take they take all that stress and give you loads of calm back.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a couple of minutes of like.
Absolutely. I think it's so valuable, and it sounds really corny, doesn't it? Because you always meet those hard-faced horse women in the world, don't you? You think, why do you do it? Like you almost like hate them, or appear to, and you will make it to this and you will make it do that. And I've just actually found that, rightly or wrongly, because horses are so stoic, I really hope with all my heart that none of them have been stoic just because they knew maybe that they were my emotional crutch. Do you know what I mean? I'd feel really sad that any of them had to endure anything because they were being sort of there for me, because I think they do.
I wonder if they feel, I wonder if that makes them feel good.
Yeah, like a nurturing herd kind of protection.
You're my person and I'm here to...
And your negative stuff was never directed at them.
No. It was needing comfort, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think horses like to be together, don't they? And I always think the fact that they want to nuzzle you, they want to be with you.
I'm sure they know when people love them. I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I don't know what concept love is for a horse, but
because we're not meant to. You read all these things, and we're not meant to humanise and all the rest of it. And I think that's the wrong wording, because I think it's about just living in harmony together, isn't it?
Yeah.
And appreciating each other's sort of, they don't seem right today. Just being in tune with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't have to talk to a friend and you sometimes get that feeling, don't you?
Well, I think sometimes you can just look at someone, can't you? And you can see that things aren't right. The same with a horse.
Yeah.
If you're in tune with them and you care.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it's why animals are good maybe for kids with special needs, and none of us know, because things have evolved so much with special needs that most of us probably all on the spectrum in some kind of way, and I'm sure I definitely am. But I think having something to care about, and that was absolutely paramount to me, was that care, but needing to feel that they loved me, even if that wasn't what I was getting. Needing to feel that was great. And I think that animals are sort of, it helps stabilise that was like a constant. So whereas you could sort of say children now are funny when they've got split parents or whatever else, actually there was all of that sort of stuff and weirdnesses going on. But actually that whole base level was them,
I definitely think, I mean, you think about dogs and what have you, and how they therapy dogs, and you hear stories that somebody who's perhaps not very well or got something going on internally that they wouldn't know about, but the dog seems to be in tune with it.
Absolutely. And and I think I always use that, like I always like to think that I was fair. I mean, I was brought up, my mum was a big believer in welfare, but it went the opposite way. It'd be like, oh, that's right, you want to go and jump that pony, do you? And I was a bit like, that's what all the other kids are doing. No, I don't want to jump it. It's like, and you had all that kind of like threatening, and actually there was a lot of secrets. So it was like, if you tell your aunt and your grandma this, that, and the other, will sell the pony. So there was always these secrets, but I didn't like keeping secrets, so I could tell the pony. So I couldn't tell a friend. I couldn't dare tell anyone that would go back and broach it. So for me, it's just been an ever evolving. And yet I still think there's times when you need to be, I say firm, but clear. I think it is. It's not so much firm or harsh. It's just clear instructions, isn't it? Repetition and always looking for feedback on every step, really.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit to Stuart.
Oh my God, Stuart.
Is that quite a big gap? Well, how old were you when you got Stuart?
Oh, wow. I can tell you exactly. I was pregnant with William. So it was
Oh, so that's
2009, I think.
So was that a whole gap without horses?
No.
So you had some.
Yeah, so I'd had other horses in between then.
Is there any other, because I feel like Stuart was very significant.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I can feel me going all...
Yeah.
And I feel...
Was there others that were significant before that?
So I had a horse called George, and I moved down south actually with him, and he was Irish, 3/4 Irish, quarter thoroughbred, but actually legs wise he was quite fine, so he'd be almost more sort of Irish sports horse. Again though, he was black. I did have a different colour in between, but I'd still got that impregnated into me. And I was on my way. I was teaching as well as working. I was teaching part-time horses. Again, I'd done my stages by now, and I was going off to Burley horse trials because I lived more that kind of way. And it was throwing it down with rain. And I got as far as Melton Mowbray, and I thought, why am I going on cross country day to walk around this? I'm not going. But I'm one of those, if I've made a promise, I've got to stick to it. So I'd said to the owner of 2 girls I taught, I said, does anybody want anything? And they wanted some stirrup leathers. And instead of just coming back and going, I didn't go. I end up at Melton Mowbray Horse Market, and they had horse shops there, and they used to have a brilliant tack auction. I used to wear a red coat and be like, yep, me. Anything else that you want? Yep, me, all of it. So I used to hoard stuff. That was a bit of a hobby. Anyway, but I never normally went, ever. I don't think I'd ever been and seen a horse sale there before. Anyway, I must have actually been still doing my stages, because I was walking, or maybe my stage 3, I was walking around all the horses and looking at their conformation, going, oh, wouldn't touch that, cow hocked and all the rest of it, but feeling desperately sorry for them, because they're in these like metal pens, like you see cows and stuff in, and they just unhinge a door and that one gets thrown out. And there'd be everything from what looked to be people that loved their horses to, there was a big old hunter there that still had his bridle on with the cheek piece and the noseband twisted, big massive marks on his mouth. He would have been the one I came home with if I hadn't have got George. Big credit card size sores on his side, so it was obviously kick and pull. And he was lovely, and I just went round, I felt so sad, but twice I went by George, and he was 2.5. His conformation looked lovely, all bar one real major thing. And he had a really badly twisted in left fore. But in my head it was 2.5, and I was a bit like, anyway, I didn't expect to buy him. I was just busy critiquing in a way. And the story was, the farm where this woman had her horses, many horses, he'd gone bankrupt, and so all of a sudden she'd got to get rid of everything. And so he'd never properly been separated from his mum or his brother. So like lots of alarm bells here, because I'd been riding for other people, so it was a matter of, I didn't have my own horse at the time, not my own, but I was riding a lot for people. I'd lost a very old mare I'd taken on for somebody, and I wasn't really looking for another horse, I don't think. And I went there, and he was just so kind, that eye was kind. He looked a little bit scared but kind. And the owner was in bits, but there was that like bittersweet of, why the hell would you bring a horse here? Why the hell did you have so many horses? So anyway, that was that. And then I couldn't help but look when they started his number 14, still have it, went round and they're like little mini amphitheatres, because you've got the seats going up. And there's all this tension. You imagine the stress. And he went in, and he couldn't be led properly because he'd never properly been. He'd been shoved in this lorry with his mum and his brother, and he got bought by the meat man.
Oh no!
And I couldn't bear it, because maybe it would have been the best thing in some ways, but it didn't happen to be. And I rang somebody I knew who I rode for. they told me to go into the cafe and look for this woman with raven black hair, and actually sort of, you didn't have your mobile phones like you did now. And she said, she will lend you some money, just say it's Andrea Eggleston. So if you ever watch this, Andrea, this is down to you. And that's what I did. But the meat man didn't want to sell him.
Oh.
And they have this thing where apparently their aim or their job is to fill the lorry and come home with it. They don't want space on the lorry. And occasionally they will buy the odd horse that when they get to the other end, there might be somebody there going, I'll give you 800 quid or whatever it is for it. And he was 495 guineas, which was actually a lot for what he was, really. And I could only get £250 out of the cash point, you see. That's why I needed the other amount adding up. This lady lent me the money. Andrea came with her horse box. But the sad thing was we were the last horse there. So not only had he had his mum and brother go, all of those other horses, they don't even tie them up. They just open all the connections and they herded them in a lorry. Horses that had always been loved and cared for and led. It was absolutely overwhelming. It would have almost been easier if they all went in a partition and they were tied up with a hay net. You know, that would have been easier. But anyway, of course, loading was always an issue from that day because we had to literally just use as many people as possible to get him into a lorry. He'd never been in a stable. He was petrified. So I backed and broke him myself when he got stronger, had loads of remedial work done.
So did you have lots of farrier work on his?
I did, but it apparently, and this is where you learn more as well, you know, at 2.5, I thought there must be something. Everything else was so perfect. And actually at 2.5, there is too much damage done to do any major rectifying. So I didn't even back and break him until he was like 5, which now is what we'd probably aim for, but back then it was like 3. It was a big horse. Oh, we had many, you know, swearing words with the farrier when he'd like ripped a brand new pair of jeans down the middle and stuff. But he was adorable. I had to do it all on my own. And he was just amazing. And when we eventually started to do some competing, the dressage judges, funny enough, he moved so straight, despite he'd got his twisted foot. He used to smile at the judges. And I used to get them come out the car and say, what a handsome horse, rider needs to keep a hand still, rider needs to, you know, all of that. And, you know, I had photos of him looking gorgeous and me going right on top, you know, because I was concentrating. We did things like riding club championships and was sort of in Lincolnshire representing the team in jumping and in dressage. We started our British eventing, and I remember when I went to one, and it was at RAF Cranwell, and they had this course, but around this course, this is when he was really baby, they had like dressed mannequins in army gear, you know, so you're just coming over a jump and there'd be an army sort of person sticking out. So it was absolutely petrifying. The jumps weren't a problem, just all these like people, dummies dressed in army sort of stuff. So we had loads of things where, you know, it just gelled us together, that trust more and more. I knew that maybe he wouldn't because of the problems with that leg. And without sort of trying to, you know, sort of talk about Equine America, I really, really wish I knew some of the supplements that are available now, because I think from an anti-inflammatory purpose, if nothing else, I could have helped him a lot more. But he was happy right up until the end. And that was because I came into some money through myself. I sold a house in Spain that I had. And I decided I was going to put that money into trying to see if there was anything else I could do.
How old was he at this point now?
How old was he? He was 11 by this point.
Not old.
Not old.
And what had just arthritis around?
Yeah, and what he did was he thickened from the knee, like almost like a triangular cannon bone, like that. And it looked so weird in a way. You didn't notice it when you looked at the whole of him. But nature had laid down so much tissue that, you know, I'd already had him at the vets, but there was stuff that they, you know, that they were saying which was going to be thousands of pounds. And it was just because he would be a bit unlevel sometimes. And actually he preferred the firmer ground. He couldn't stand soft ground.
Right.
And when I came down to the New Forest, all of the pony tracks, because he was actually really well built in the chest,
Yeah.
lovely gap here, and he couldn't cope with the little pony tracks on the forest. And where else can you go when you're on them?
Yeah.
And I think the cambers and stuff like that. And that's when he started to really show the first signs of unsoundness. And the vets that I was with, you know, it's probably, I don't know whether it's what they do now, they put a massive lateral extension and it weighed a ton. This shoe weighed a ton. They then put him on like, not a diet because he was obese like that, but he did carry, he was a big horse, needed to try and take any of that down. And so he was on a bear patch, and he used to see me whilst he was sort of having certain treatment. I was riding my partner, my son's dad's horse, and he used to be coming and nickering to me, and he just wanted that interaction. And in the end, I had him put down at 13, so we had a bit of time. Because his quality of life, he was so depressed all of a sudden. That horse that had smiled throughout his whole life was depressed. He used to lift that leg up to kind of almost, and you're stuck between, do I just happily look at him in the field? But I couldn't, because actually I knew it wasn't like the Black Beauty story of a nice big tree and 9 acres. He wasn't allowed in anything of any kind like that. And, you know, just seeing it get worse and worse, and knowing there was nothing that you could do. And I kind of really resented, as awful as it is, I resented the New Forest, because I felt like it was the lanes with the camber. I was used to bridle tracks up in Leicestershire, big wide grass verges, and I'd come down here and I was trying to, you know, go through the kind of terrain that we've got, which is fantastic for so many things. And he couldn't cope. And that was so sad. But I've never been a person that believes in, I would rather them finish their life with me than ever risk them having to get used to another person if I know that there is an injury or a problem that's never going to get any better, you know. But it was the most, that was a very traumatic time.
Because he was still quite young.
Because he was still quite young. And I've had a flurry of horses that have been like that. And you start to think, is it me? Because you always do. But actually, I've had some really horrendous luck. And luckily, I've had lovely vets, you know, friends, like I'm good friends with Sue Davro and like lovely Beth, and, you know, and so I've had lots of really good people around me that have helped sort of be my sounding board and chew the cud with and try everything. And I think keeping a horse when they're in pain is not being right by them.
No, I definitely, if they're in pain.
It's a hard one, because you wouldn't choose. You know, I was actually with my aunt, as she'd been fit and healthy, and I say that she'd had cancer from 42, but she'd been one of those walk the Pennine way, very swim 5 days a week, always going right up to the end. And when she ended up on palliative care, it really, and she was actually saying, I don't want this anymore. You know, you sort of go, you do realise that it is a really hard decision, any kind of euthanasia, but and it's a depressing subject, of course, but in the wild, you know, a horse would have been left behind by the herd.
Something
it would have been picked on. It would have lost all condition. And I think sometimes we have to look at what is just making us be able to brush it under the carpet, and what is actually hopefully being the true horsewoman and loving them enough.
Because I think there's injuries that mean they're field sound, and I couldn't put a horse down in that situation. But if they're in pain daily, just going around a turned out life,
not comfortable being at rest, what
then
do you
that's
do?
a different situation.
Absolutely. So so George was a big thing in my life, and actually he was the one that gave me the majority of my happy competing experiences, because he loved everything. You know, and actually, you know, you'd always go by how he felt, but he, you know, I remember going over to a friend's whose daughter was, well, you would know her, Zoe Pyatt. And because I know Joan Hood really well. And even though he was past his sort of competing days then, you know, he would try so hard. And, you know, I was always worried when you landed and you turned, that foot, you know. and he'd be like taking you into the fence. It wasn't like a nervous energy like I often
Mm.
see and think that horse doesn't like jumping.
No.
It's just jumping.
Yeah.
But he was, he took you into fences.
Yeah.
He didn't ever act stressed
Mm.
in it. He wasn't a stopper.
No.
It was more me
Mm.
trying to almost hold his hand over everything
Yeah.
at the end
Yeah.
and then causing problems.
Yeah.
So so
Mm.
that was him.
And
Are
then
you bored yet?
no, not at
going.
all.
Keep
Keep going.
So then next was
Stuart. So when I knew I was having to have Dear George put down, it was obviously, it didn't have to be like an instant thing.
Mm.
And I was pregnant with William at the time, and so William narrowly missed being called George, because when I was with William's dad, I was like, well, I want to call him George, and we'd already talked about names.
Yeah.
I want to call him George. He's like, you can't call him George after a horse. What's wrong with calling him after a horse? He's the most special thing ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to name him after you, do you? Anyway, so we made an agreement in the end that George would be William's middle name.
Oh,
So there's
that's
still a legacy
nice.
Yeah.
there.
That's special.
And for me, and if William does listen to this, that having that name George, it was such a special, solid, never did anything to upset. It's such a lovely sort of thing to be able to remember why you called him that.
Yeah.
So I think he's very lucky.
Yeah.
So Stuart, oh my goodness, I didn't really know that many people down here. I sort of got talking to somebody, and I knew I wanted another horse. And this time I wasn't having a rescue. I'd done it all my life from a child. I was going to have an all singing, because they exist, don't you know?
Yeah, apparently.
I was going to buy a perfect horse, trainable, successful, be able to, cover up my own faults and make me look amazing. And so
as a youngster
I wanted a youngster that, was started, because obviously by this time I'm pregnant with William. I tried various horses, even pregnant, because I thought, if you're selling it and you're saying it's what it is, I'm happy to ride it. I'll take the risk, which might be a bit irresponsible, but back then that was my headspace. And so tried a lovely, lovely grey, but I was worried that I thought it had got an impacted tooth, and I just thought loads of dental money. And she was actually on a yard where Alex Juan, that represents, I'm going to get this wrong now.
Alex Hartian?
Is it Huan?
Yeah.
Who represented, I'm terrible, is it China?
Yes.
Yes.
And eventing. Yeah.
So it was when he was first starting out with being given this funding, this lottery funding.
Yeah.
And I went to this yard where he was
So
based.
it's Japanese, isn't it?
Japanese, not
Sorry.
Chinese. Yeah.
Japan, but I'm terrible at things like that, so
So
I'm
am
keeping
I.
quiet.
I think it's
Yeah.
Japanese.
I was like, why did I have to bring this
this?
subject up?
Yeah.
And it was we were waiting for the daughter of the owner to come back, and she was stuck somewhere. So the mum, who obviously she had this great big yard, and they used to bring certain horses in.
Yeah.
She sort of said, look, he was obviously one of her clients. Would you mind riding? I think his name was Mouse, and I'm riding a Mouse at the moment. And he said, no, lovely iron grey, 5-year-old, perfect. I thought, anyway, bless him, we went and tried him out, and the reason I'm bragging is because the horse did stop at the fence for him and it jumped it for me, but that was nothing to do. I just need to hang on to that little bit of success there, where I didn't embarrass myself, thankfully. But actually he was lovely, very humble, very sweet. And so I tried this horse out. Apparently it did nap a little bit, but I didn't mind, because I've always loved training, has been my biggest thing. And but anyway, so I decided not because of the tooth. I do actually now wish in some ways that I'd gone down that route. I think maybe I'd have been saved some heartache that came after. I just get that feeling now. And so all that paranoia, don't buy that one. I buy Stuart. And his name was Stuart because when they bring horses over from Holland, they might go, right, letter of the alphabet. Every horse on that is going to begin with S. So there was a Stephen, a Sydney, and a Stuart. And I hated the name at first. I was like, I cannot have a horse called Stuart. my son's dad at the time, he had this labourer that was, oh my God, like he didn't tie stuff on the top of the van and, you know, things like that, called Stuart. And I was like, oh my God, I can't have a Stuart. He's going to be really thick. That's awful. He's not going to be...
That
particular you wouldn't know me.
We're not talking about you, Stuart.
No.
Not that Stuart.
No.
Anyway, and you know, but he just never thought, and like he was always off with the fairies and distracted by something, and I wasn't sure that this was a good omen. But anyway, I couldn't change his name. As I got to know him, Stuart suited him so well. And his proper name was Bitopi B, so it was some amazing bloodlines, show jumping bloodlines like Viking, which one of the Whitakers had, you know, all of this kind of thing. And he'd been brought over, he'd been lightly started, and you know, he just seemed very honest. And I thought, I've got all the time in the world. I'm no longer looking for that driven competition horse that has to fit within the age groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was like, it takes the time that it does. He's going to be my project, but hey, he's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, if only you didn't fall in love with them.
Yeah.
That's my problem as well.
I'm terrible. And he basically, I got told by Andy Austin that he was a hooligan. I got told by, gosh, I can't remember who else, several people, because he could be very talented. Like in a single jump thing, when you saw him jump, his front feet were so together, you know, he was kind of perfect, but it would have been seen as attitudey that if he got a stride wrong, then he'd rodeo.
Oh, okay.
And it would literally be up at the front, you know, up at the back, up at the front.
His jump.
Yeah.
So he'd jump it and they go, I didn't get that right.
Absolutely.
Right.
He would go disunited, everyone said. It's because he's young, he's weak, he's developing strength. Do you know what I mean? And he thought maybe, because you kind of get into that vortex of a lot of great people that strongly believe in what they believe as well. And you haven't yet got to your step of learning for the next step. But I've always gone through love, which is maybe, you know, not maybe been the safest thing when you've got plates and all sorts in your body. But anyway, I was very kind. I think people thought that I was too soft. You know, I didn't give him several whatevers. And I'm so glad, you know, there was the odd time back then that you did say it's actually safer and it's kinder, you know, to give them a smack then because it's dangerous if you don't. And that's how you kind of got taught. And I got a bit of stick about, you know, look at the Horse and Hound, these horses are 5 and they're jumping 130. And I was just like, it never fitted right with me, but I didn't have the knowledge. I just knew it didn't sit right. So I had lots of knowledge and felt that I was a really accomplished horsewoman. But like, actually, there's so much that you just never ever know. So I loved him, of course. And he could be perfect. Like we went and we did like, you know, Discovery and British Novice, and I went through a stage, it was double clear every time. And then he went through a stage where he'd go in and he'd jump the first round brilliantly, you know, like I felt like it was like a Ferrari. I don't want to compare a horse to a car, but the finesse and the energy and the strength was just like mind-blowing. And then you would go in, you'd want to go in for like, maybe you had to go in the next round, and it was like the handbrake was on. I couldn't even get him in through the gate. And why did he go in the first time? So that's not napping to me. That is something else, but people think they're napping. And then he would keep spreading his legs to go for a wee, but wouldn't go for a wee. So in my head, so I was then travelling him with bedding, walking him onto every grass verge I could find, and he just wouldn't go, but he would stop and do the whole. And I was just like, there is something not right, but everybody thought he was just a bad lad. Then I did start to lose my nerve because he would go in with all this, almost like he'd either be backing off or going with energy, and then the brakes were on. And it was that real last minute thing that then you've got to represent him, and of course people would say, don't let him get away with that, take him around and make him go over it again. And I get all of that. You don't want to cement bad behaviour, or that they can just, there doesn't need to be any effort. But yeah, I was very big on you know, this needs investigating. So lots of things were happening. There was more and more things that I wasn't happy with.
Yeah.
He could be absolutely amazing, but in the blink of an eye,
Mm.
he would bolt down the side of the school just for a few strides, but he would be like up, then head between his legs, and you knew you were coming, like you would sit so much of it. And then I got the lady whose yard it was. She was a lovely quiet rider, but very strong because she rode several horses a day. And, you know, I remember viewing a really aggressive incident where Stuart was different with her because she was giving him more pressure. And I didn't know that it was going to end up like, it was horrific. It was like a fight, not in hitting or anything like that. I didn't know that she was going to get off and be in one piece. It was so like violent. And then it was like, has he learned to get away with it? You know, you get all of that. And there was just this thing inside of me. So I didn't want to go to, I was with the barn at the time. That was nothing against them, but I was like, I haven't got loads of money. I need to, he was the most expensive horse I've ever bought. And, you know, because he was my perfect horse. And I just decided I need to go to a specialist. And I've been very privileged to have met Dr. Sue Dyson since that, but she was in Newmarket, and I was recommended to somebody nearer, and I went there, and they said it was SI, but he had got kissing spines, but they thought that kissing spines was secondary to the SI. So we went through the treatment of that, and this specialist vet at the time was very complimentary about me, which was lovely. About my riding, not me, but about my dedication, because if he said, right, he needs to do a hand walk, I walked for miles, you know. I ran and jogged up the hills, and, you know, he could see the development that I'd done. And then basically I got told that he was, I think he's a lot better, but I think he's a bit bridle lame.
And what does that
I do not. And what does that actually mean?
What does it mean? And then you think, is that me? You know, because of my sort of like, you know, like a nervous twitch, got the horse's head. And I've always been very soft in the hands. Anyway, because I'd got plates in his hand because I'd had an accident and all sorts of things, he did suggest, and William was very young, he did suggest putting him with, first of all, with a guy that trained at show jumping, but he was smallish and everything. Now, when I got there, you know, like not everywhere's how it seems. So you let your horse go to someone that you think is better than you. Facility's amazing, but the two of them didn't get on. So when I went to see him, it was, he'd got draw reins on, but we'd got a problem in the back end. So how does he extend his head to say, right, I need it's like doing sit-ups, isn't it? You say you've got to do 50, but can I have a break after 10? No, you can't. Get going. You're going to be sore. So there was lots going on in my head, and that particular pro rider said that he was dangerous and he feared for me having a young son. And there was all these things.
Quite difficult to hear that.
I was never really scared of it. There was obviously an element of scared, like I didn't like that feeling when he did something. But the in-betweens was, we were like peas and carrots. We were like so bonded that actually he followed me. You know, he was just very into me. And, you know, he could be a bit rude and be a bit demanding every now and then if I wasn't there. But I think I was his crutch for like a safety thing in other ways. Anyway, so he then went back in for some more treatments. And this was a really horrific thing. And that's why I can't say who it was. And like I say, not close where I am. But he decided he was bridle lame. And he'd only been done 3 months before with his teeth by the lovely Beth, before Beth ran her own plates. And I said, no, he's had his teeth done. She's trained by Chris Pierce, and you know, like, and so he was sedated. And as I was looking at my horse, instead of just straighted and having, you know, and stood there, and maybe they sometimes look when they've got the gag and their mouth open, but his eyes were like that. But I just, in that moment, it was like slowing down. There was the slow motion of me thinking, doesn't normally look like that, but you're with this very prestigious yard of facilities, like and little things like the gag was really shiny, like it wasn't used that much. You know, I expect, you know, when somebody brings out their gag, you know, yes, they've cleaned it, but it might have a few scratches on it, and you wouldn't see your face in it. And anyway, I got him back, and the livery yard that I was on, we used to all feed at the same time, which I love actually, that they all get fed their breakfast and their dinners at the same time. So I'd left him his tea with his Metacam or whatever in it for painkilling. And then I was going back the next day because I was actually meant to ride him the next day. And I went down and they said, do you know what? He's not eating his breakfast. He's been banging all morning and he didn't eat his tea. I got him out as soon as I brushed him. Lovely. Absolutely fine. Got on him. I could ride him on his... This is why, I mean, he wasn't dead. I rode him on my own. He did used to do these funny leaps where people used to go, oh my God, well sat, you know, and then it'd be over and done with, you know. But that wasn't to get you off. There were ones that were. And I went off into the forest, long rain on the way out, took up a contact, and he ran into every ditch, every tree. And I was just literally, the trouble is I was hanging on. Because what do you do? And I didn't know where I was going to come off. I didn't know what damage him and I were going to do. I needed to be with him almost. But at the same time, how do you get off this horse that is like crazy? Anyway, I managed to stay on him. I'd opened a gate, you know, like even leaning forward doing that, everything had made you a bit of a bag of jelly because you're like, what the hell was that about? And I actually rode back and I bumped into my son's dad and he was all calm by then. I thought, was it a fly? Was it, you know, something? I sat William on top and led him home.
Gosh.
Yeah, quite, because that's how he could be. He was like, he was an absolute pussycat for so many things that didn't actually then come together when people wanted to say that he was what he was, because he wasn't. Anyway, I rushed him I rang the barn and they took him straight in there. And I think Amy, bless her, who's there, she was like, bring him in now. And they opened up his mouth and just made me cry as well.
Oh no.
He had got 2 massive ulcers from the burning, the heat of the power tool, like 50p pieces.
Oh God.
They bit seated him, which is where they round off. So there's a lot of people that believe that then the bit, if they, you know, when you see them chew on their bit and it kind of goes up and comes back down to stop it hooking on the molars there, or sorry, the back of the incisors it would be, wouldn't it? And then sorry, I've lost my thread there, brain, menopause moment.
Topical for us.
And then he'd exposed live pulp, and they didn't know that his pulps would ever grow back.
God.
And I just
what's
cried,
that matter?
Yeah.
I guess
So
it doesn't
long,
really-
Anyway, the person's speciality wasn't teeth,
No.
and it was so bad that Chris Pearce came in, because obviously he used to be at the barn, but he set up. He came in because it was seen as a real specialist case. As far as I know, Stuart's teeth are still used in pictures on Chris Pearce's.
Oh God.
Things that he takes to lectures all over the world of showing the kind of thing that can happen. Not the way I wanted my horse to become famous.
No.
Amazingly, so I still worked him and still stuck by him. And in the end, this great big strong Dutch warmblood, I could ride him in this little bendy nath bit. And that was never the problem. But he did never recover from, you know, things like whether it was the kissing spines or the SI, there was always something going wrong. And he colicked twice a year, every year.
Okay.
We never knew why.
Oh.
And I think there was a lot of internal pain going on, but he was
I
a
didn't
boy.
know he had kissing spines, because I always thought it was his stifles.
No, so stifles actually came as another diagnosis after that.
Okay.
So I had a lot of help with people like Sue Davro, who then recommended me to somebody at Lip Hook.
Yeah.
So he went up there. So we were still, and by this time there's no insurance left,
Slaves,
you know,
like that.
but you're kind of stuck because I loved him. Again, he was young. And was there anything that I could do? But it was bilateral. By the time, I think where the trouble is when you buy them from Holland, depending where they come, they're kept in crew yards. Apparently this particular place, and I don't know whether it's common over there, they feed them beef cattle nuts.
Right.
So the idea is to make them look like these warm bloods that look like 6 or 7. But there's all that stress on the bones, on the joints, on the growth plates, as you can imagine. Then you've got the fact that they're quite often loose jumped to show how amazing their breed lines are, out of deep sand pits, over massive jumps. And of course, I didn't see those pictures, but I know that the person that imported him had. And actually, even back then, I sort of cringe at myself saying, you know, a long time ago, you were kind of impressed. Look, he's doing it all by himself. You know, you sort of forget there's somebody you will get, you know, they're funneled in and you get over that jump. So I'm a really anti loose jump, unless it's sort of little and it's about different kind of schooling. I'm really anti that. And I wouldn't buy a horse if it had been loose jumped at a young age. And I think that extravagance of movement on a horse out of deep surfaces, so it's overusing its suspensories and every little thing going, just like a youthful child where they think they can run around all day. But the damage comes later.
Clip-clop dreams in a dusty dance. Hooves hit the ground like a brave romance. Through the wire, through the breeze. Big brave pants riding with ease. Big brave pants trot to the beat. Step by step, it's a rhythmic feat. Brave and bold, no second glance. Saddle up tight in your big brave pants. Gallop through fields, let the rhythm sway. Every hoof beat says we'll find our way. Tick tock,